Hey there! Welcome to Beyond the Plot. I'm Taha, and I'm super excited to have you here. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most haunting, enigmatic, and obsessively analysed films in cinema history, The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick. This is not just a horror movie. It's a multi-layered psychological and symbolic labyrinth disguised as a ghost story. What begins as a simple tale of isolation and madness unravels into a cryptic, disturbing descent into a world where time, identity, and reality itself begin to fracture. On the surface, The Shining tells the story of Jack Torrance, a struggling writer and recovering alcoholic, who accepts a job as the winter caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, a massive isolated resort in the Colorado Rockies. He moves in with his wife, Wendy, and young son, Danny, who possesses a mysterious psychic ability known as The Shining. As a brutal winter storm cuts them off from the outside world, Jack begins to unravel, influenced by the hotel's malevolent forces, or perhaps by something far more internal. Kubrick's genius lies in how he presents this familiar setup. He removes all exposition that typically makes horror films easy to read. The result is a sense of unease that permeates the entire film. We're not sure what's real, what's imagined, and what's symbolic. It's not about answers, it's about mood, space, and suggestion. Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Jack Torrance is deliberately off-kilter from the start. Unlike King's novel, where Jack is a man slowly seduced by evil, Kubrick's Jack arrives already teetering on the edge. His body language, his delivery, his expression, it's unnerving from the first scene. Some critics argue this makes his descent less tragic. But Kubrick isn't interested in emotional sympathy. He's interested in psychological inevitability. Shelley Duvall's Wendy, often unfairly criticized, is perhaps the most honest depiction of a battered, emotionally suffocated woman ever put to screen. Duvall's fragile voice, her unsteady movements, and genuine terror were not performance alone. Kubrick notoriously pushed her to mental exhaustion during filming. What you see is real fear, real breakdown, and it's harrowing. Danny Lloyd's performance is equally essential. Danny is the film's moral and emotional core. His imaginary friend Tony, his visions, his instinct to hide rather than fight, all speak to the psychological trauma of a child trapped between parental collapse and supernatural threat. Let's talk about space. Because in The Shining, architecture is not just setting, it's narrative. Kubrick designed the Overlook Hotel as an impossible structure, doors that go nowhere, windows in interior rooms, hallways that contradict one another. The geography of the hotel cannot be mapped because it doesn't follow the logic of real space. It follows the logic of dreams or nightmares. This deliberate spatial inconsistency contributes to the film's disorienting effect. As viewers, we subconsciously try to make sense of where the characters are, but we can't. The result? We feel trapped, just like Jack. The hotel becomes a living maze, echoing the hedge maze outside, a symbolic prison. The film's title refers to Danny's telepathic gift, but The Shining is more than a plot device. It represents intuition, trauma perception, and ancestral memory. Danny shines because he sees what others can't, the violence buried beneath the surface of the Overlook. In a way, shining is the ability to perceive past sins. The blood in the elevator, the twins, the old woman in room 237. These aren't just ghosts, they're echoes of atrocities committed and buried. Danny sees them because he's not yet conditioned to ignore them. Here's where it gets deeper and stranger. Kubrick peppers the film with references to the genocide of Native Americans. The Overlook is built on an Indian burial ground, a horror cliché that Kubrick elevates to allegory. The hotel is decorated with native imagery, Navajo murals, Apache tapestries. The implication is clear. The land itself is soaked in blood, and the Overlook represents the whitewashed, commodified version of that history. Then, there's time. Throughout the film, characters reference past caretakers, most notably Delbert Grady, who corrected his family. But Grady tells Jack that he is the caretaker and always has been. The film ends with a photo dated July 4th, 1921. Jack front and center. What does this mean? Is Jack reincarnated? Trapped in a time loop? Or has he always been part of the hotel? A manifestation of its evil. The idea of eternal return hangs over the film like snow clouds. The past never dies. It repeats over and over. The cycle of abuse, alcoholism, and violence doesn't end with Jack. It began long before him. He's just the latest vessel. Kubrick's direction is cold, symmetrical, and obsessive. Every frame is composed like a painting. The iconic Steadicam shots, Danny riding his tricycle through hallways, Jack stalking through the hotel, create a hypnotic rhythm. Color is used psychologically. Warm interiors become oppressive. The red bathroom where Jack meets Grady is sterile and surreal. The typewriter's transformation from white to black echoes Jack's mental decay. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they're psychological signals. The score, composed by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind, is a mixture of classical compositions and dissonant electronic noise. Combined with moments of total silence, the sound design becomes an assault on comfort. You're not just watching The Shining, you're inside it. The phrase, "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," becomes Jack's mantra, typed obsessively, hundreds of times. It's a symbol of madness, yes, but also of ritual. The act of writing is no longer creative, it's compulsive, meaningless. A mechanical echo of a mind imploding. Mirrors appear throughout the film. Often, when characters look into them, we see their true selves. Jack speaks to ghosts only when looking in reflective surfaces. Duality, identity fracture, the idea that Jack is not just a man, but a persona, a role. And finally, the hedge maze. In the final act, Danny outsmarts Jack by retracing his own footsteps. Symbolically, this represents breaking the cycle. Danny escapes the labyrinth of trauma where Jack was consumed by it. The Shining remains one of the most debated, rewatched, and reinterpreted films ever made. It's not because it has the scariest jump scares or the bloodiest scenes, it's because it lingers. Like a bad dream you can't shake. Every watch reveals something new. A detail in the background, a cryptic line, a question unanswered. Kubrick didn't make a film to be understood. He made a film to be felt. And that's why, over 40 years later, The Shining is still being dissected by film scholars, theorists, and fans alike. It's not about a haunted hotel. It's about haunted people, haunted history, and how sometimes the scariest thing isn't what lurks in the hallway, but what hides in our own reflection. If you enjoyed this deep analysis, don't forget to subscribe for more serious, in-depth film breakdowns. Let me know in the comments. What do you think the final photo means? And what's your favorite hidden detail in The Shining? Thanks for watching, and remember, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.